Hello everybody, and I hope that you're having a great summer and looking forward to a relaxing and productive Christmas period with your friends and family. I just want to get out another video before the end of the year so that people can think a little ahead while they have time and they have a relaxing time on their holidays. They can think a little bit about this issue, which affects thousands of people across New Zealand currently and will continue to affect thousands more if we don't address these issues soon, and if we don't look at a different model, one that can actually work for children with special needs. Because special needs children are not an island. They are not just a singular point. They are part of a wider network. They're part of a family, for one. They have parents, they have siblings, they have cousins, they have aunties and uncles, they have grandparents, and they're part of your community. So when we look at the impact of the lack of inclusion, because the inclusion model is a failure, I will say it time and again, it's a complete failure. We look at the fact that this inclusion model doesn't work, and it profoundly affects the lives of students, but it also affects the lives of, obviously, their wider family group. People in New Zealand need to know the impact of the social injustice, which is lack of access to appropriate education, including even full-time education, including even education in a school facility at all for many special needs children in this country. And so that means that parents are not able to work often. Parents have to reduce working hours, or parents are having to mortgage houses and take huge financial pressure to fund a teacher aide for their child at New Zealand public schools. So this is why I'm so heated up about this issue, because I know that in the past in New Zealand there was a better model. I know this how, because my own parents were special needs teachers. My father was a special needs teacher and worked in special education for most of his career. My mum was a psychopedic nurse who then later in life became a special needs teacher. So I've been around special needs education pretty much my whole life. It's I used to go and sit in my dad's class after kindy, and I used to hang out with the kids in the special needs unit at his school. And it just is an irony in life that my fourth child happened to end up being one of those students. And so it's sort of come full circle for me. And I also have a relative who has a disability and who attended a special needs school in New Zealand before this whole inclusion model, which basically shut down most of the special needs schools and the special ed units. So it's very much at my a really important issue to me, and I believe that reform is needed. But we need to look at, when we reform the system, we need to look at what worked in the past, because why reinvent the wheel? So in the past, they used to have inspectors that came out to the schools, but they also had special needs education. So it was like a separate sort of system within the country. So the special needs education system meant that, for instance, my father's classroom that he had when I was a little girl was on a public school. So it was a classroom. But he was the principal, in fact, of that assessment unit. It was called an assessment unit, but really it was a special needs hub. For instance, it was a special needs classroom. So all the children in the area who had some kind of special needs would be enrolled in that classroom. But the classroom was actually, from a legal standpoint, separate from the school. So my father was regarded as the teacher and the principal of the assessment unit because he was under the special needs education system. You see, it was a separate system, and it had special needs inspectors that came out to make sure, he was doing a good job. and to check in with him. And so the principal of the school, the mainstream principal, had no oversight over my father, even though he was a member of staff on that campus. Do you see what I mean? So all that my father had to do, he was entirely responsible for all those students, for how things run, and how he did things, on that campus with his students and the curricula and everything. So he was, his own boss. And I believe that when you get more of this sort of emancipation from overarching systems, and you can just go out and do things yourself in a practical and pragmatic way, it's a much more effective system. The children get a way better deal out of it, and the staff. I think we need to look really, really hard, people out there. Parents and students and teachers and people who work within the special needs paradigm. You need to really look at what worked effectively in the past. There's a lot of misinformation out there, because of things like, institutions, maybe bad things happen to them and things like that. So there's this whole smear that's been passed on from that. But really, it's sort of a false narrative, because there were a lot of things in the past that worked really well. I believe that people got better care and better education in many, many ways. And I'm not saying we need to go, back to how things were or anything, but we need to take the things that worked and worked effectively and worked really well and adapt that when we create this new system. I do believe special needs education needs to be a separate system. Why? Because it has really bad outcomes when you just lump everything in together and pray it works, So by having sort of a separate system and with more freedom within that, with emancipation from this mainstream, where people only really focus on the mainstream kids, and they really only focus on making sure they get the best outcomes. If emancipation from that, then the focus can solely be on ensuring that the lives and the education and the holistic care of special needs students is done really well. Because right now it's not really done at all in many cases. So I would like to see a setup of a separate special needs education system, with a special needs director, and you can have inspectors again that come out and make sure these special needs hubs are working well, and have emancipation from the mainstream system, because everything that runs effectively is done within its own hemisphere, I believe. You can't just lump everything together and hope it works, because it clearly doesn't. And just hope for this trickle down of funding, and just, have parents and principals and that on their knees begging for a few more crusts so they can help this special needs student. Because that's what happens, really. Let's be frank about it. Let's be honest. So I hope going forward people can see the point of what I'm doing, and that I think the best way to care for these students and their pastoral care, their academic care, and all that needs to come from being a separate system. So I want to see a reform of the current education model back to a system like they've had in the past, where you have special needs hubs on campus, a special needs classroom, but that it's run by teachers and staff which are separate from the school, and within their own little special needs hemisphere, so that principals aren't stressed out, so that they're not having to do all the work for two different sort of schools within their campus, and things like that. But the special needs students will still be part of that school, in a way that they'll still be enrolled as part of the school, but within a separate system. So if people think, this is a good way to go forward, please leave your comments in the comment section. Let's get discussion around this. Let's let's get people actually putting their hand up and saying, yeah, I want to be part of this conversation, because we need a whole lot of people on board to get this thing going. You can't rely on one person to do everything. Obviously, everyone knows that. But I think we need a little bit of bravery, a little bit of courage, a little bit of passion, so that our special needs kids get the best out of life and the best out of the schooling system in this country. Thank you.